Soaked rag scrapes cold mansion floor. 6-year-old girl kneels without complaining, though knees burn against marble. Small hands, already reddened and trembling. Scrub feet of elegant woman reclining on leather sofa like queen. Wine in glass sways. Woman's mouth curves with disdain, and girl keeps scrubbing. Tears fall without sound. Taylor has learned not to cry aloud because crying aloud only makes things worse. Grips cloth tightly, bites lips, and leans even more. With each movement, cloth slides mixed with mud and sweat. Squeezes fingers until hurt, until losing feeling, as if that's what they expected of her. Work in silence, obey, disappear. Living room is spacious, illuminated by golden lamp glow, but that light warms nothing. Place is too beautiful, too organized, and for Taylor is nothing more than luxury prison. Contrast is cruel. Leather armchairs, impeccable glass tables, and amid everything, child treated like employee. Taylor has brown hair always disheveled, bangs stuck to forehead with sweat. Large honey-colored eyes shine more from fear than childhood. On arm, faded teddy bear escapes from embrace, last gift from mother before dying. When squeezes toy is like squeezing memory of security no longer existing in that house. Mother Emma died too soon. Father, Jeremy Coleman, millionaire and owner of one of country's largest auto factories, believed money could compensate void. Gave expensive toys, expensive dresses, but rarely devoted time. And lacking time brought another woman to mansion, Vivian. Young, beautiful, sophisticated, always ready to smile in public. For Jeremy seemed new opportunity to rebuild family. For Taylor, became daily nightmare. What city are you watching this video from and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. If this story has hooked you so far, subscribe to channel. What comes next is even more intense, and you won't want to miss it. Sound of key turning in lock broke heavy silence like unexpected thunder. Mansion door burst open and tapping of masculine shoes resonated on marble floor. Taylor remained paralyzed. Cloth slipped from wet hand and fell into basin with dull noise. Bear, still pressed under arm, slid slightly as if also feeling shock. Vivian raised eyes startled but regained control too quickly. Rehearsed smile returned to face like mask hastily glued. Wine glass was deposited on table with calculated delicacy. At door, Jeremy Coleman stopped. Air seemed ripped from lungs. What saw didn't fit any logical explanation. Daughter kneeling, hands dirty with mud, tears running down cheeks, washing wife's feet. Weight of scene drove into him like knife. What is this? Voice sounded hoarse, broken but loaded with fury. Taylor lifted face slowly. Had swollen eyes, red nose, and trembling mouth. Wanted to run toward father, but something kept her paralyzed, as if invisible chains held her to floor. Vivian stood with smooth movement as if nothing had happened. Approached Jeremy with face painted with false pain. "Darling, you misunderstood," said, letting words flow like poisoned honey. Was tired. Sat down to rest and Taylor insisted on helping me. Told her wasn't necessary, but she begged me. You know how affectionate she is. Jeremy didn't blink. Veins on neck protruded, jaw contracted. However, gaze shifted from Vivian to daughter, who still held wet cloth with trembling fingers. Nothing in that child's body said affection. Only fear, only exhaustion. Took 3 steps and knelt before daughter, ignoring wife. Took small body in arms. Smell of mud and sweat stuck to child's skin. Heartbeat like accelerated drum against his chest. Jeremy closed eyes for second, overwhelmed by guilt. "Daughter," murmured. But Taylor didn't respond, only buried face in tie, breathing as if returned to surface after being submerged for hours. Vivian didn't retreat. Eyes gleamed for instant, not from repentance but from calculation. Approached and put hand on husband's arm. Jeremy, please, just wanted to teach her value of caring for others. You know how children can dramatize. He raised face and gaze directed at wife had nothing confused. Was pure ice mixed with contained fury. Teach. Word came out like shot. That's what you call teaching? Silence that followed was brutal. Only room clock marked each second like hammer blow. Taylor trembled hidden in father's arms. Vivian tried to maintain composure but breathing accelerated. Behind sweet smile was flash of hatred. Jeremy stood with daughter clinging to neck. For today, we're done. Voice didn't need to be loud. Coldness said everything. Turned back and began climbing stairs. On sofa, wine glass still vibrated as if crystal had absorbed tension. Vivian remained motionless, lips curved in forced smile, but eyes narrowed like sharpened blades. When Taylor's room door closed upstairs, mask finally broke. Smile disappeared, replaced by gleam of pure venom. In that instant, routine split in two. Jeremy could no longer pretend everything was fine. Image of daughter kneeling, with wounded hands and tears on face would never leave mind. Could try to deny it. Could deceive himself with soft explanations. But truth was before him. Something was deeply wrong inside own house. And though still didn't know magnitude of storm, there was no turning back. That night, Jeremy couldn't sleep. Image of daughter kneeling on floor pursued him like shadow stuck to eyes. Clock beside bed advanced, making too much noise while Taylor slept few meters away, hugging old teddy bear. With each fragile breath heard from her room, part of him broke even more. For first time in years, Jeremy realized perhaps had built glass fortress, solid outside but fragile enough to break inside with slightest impact. An impact had already occurred. Next morning, house routine seemed too perfect. Breakfast table was full of golden breads, cut fruit, and steaming coffee. Vivian appeared smiling as if previous night hadn't existed. "Good morning, family," said with tone too sweet to be sincere. Jeremy remained silent. Taylor, hunched in chair, held spoon as if were enormous weight. Under table, subtle movement. Vivian's thin heel hit child's shin. Taylor choked on air, dropped spoon on plate, and murmured almost inaudible apology. Jeremy frowned. Eyes crossed with daughter's, quick, desperate look soon diverted downward. Distrust grew, but mind still resisted. Perhaps was imagination. Perhaps was exaggeration. But when little one stood to pick up fallen cutlery, Jeremy noticed something. Purple bruise disguised under light sock. Stomach churned. In that instant, room door opened. Middle-aged woman entered with firm step and clinical gaze. Was Margaret, Vivian's mother. "So this is girl," said in dry tone, examining Taylor like someone evaluating defective object. "Seems too fragile. Don't know how can be useful." Taylor shrank, and Jeremy felt spark of rage burning in chest, but Vivian hurried to intervene, holding arm with feigned sweetness. "My mother's like that. Speaks without thinking but likes Taylor. You'll see." Jeremy didn't respond, only took daughter to school that day. While held hand in car, noticed marks on wrists, as if there'd been invisible ropes there. "What happened to you, sweetheart?" Asked with voice lower than whisper. Taylor withdrew hand, eyes full of tears. "I fell." "That's all?" Jeremy didn't believe it, but didn't insist. Daughter's silence was muffled scream, and he was beginning to understand. That night, upon returning home, heard sobs coming from child's room. Approached half-open door and saw Taylor sitting on bed, hugging Bear tightly. Murmured to stuffed animal as if were only one hearing her. "Dad, just wanted Mom to come back. Wanted someone to defend me." Heart sank. For instant thought about entering, hugging her, asking forgiveness, but remained paralyzed, as if admitting aloud would make everything more real. Returned to office and sank into leather chair, unable to open single company document. Days later, detail changed everything. Late afternoon, passing through garden, Jeremy saw Taylor carrying bucket too heavy for body. Small hands trembled, arms yielded and bucket slipped, spilling water on floor. Margaret appeared behind her, arms crossed and hard voice. "Useless. Can't even do that." Taylor tried to contain tears but couldn't. Jeremy stepped forward, picked up daughter in arms and faced mother-in-law with icy gaze. Margaret stepped aside, grumbling, but didn't dare prolong confrontation. That same night, Jeremy found something dispelling any doubt still remaining. Inside teddy bear, clumsily sewn, was folded note. Childish handwriting trembled on crooked lines. "Dad, I'm scared of Mom." Hands trembled. World stopped for few seconds. There was proof never wanted to face. Vivian wasn't just severe, was cruel. House was no longer home, was trap. Jeremy went up to daughter's bedroom. Found Taylor sleeping with tired face and light breathing. Sat beside bed and caressed disheveled hair. Heartbeat between rage and regret. Knew could no longer ignore it, but also didn't know how to face weight of that war inside own house. Bear remained on lap, stitching open revealing truth. And Jeremy, for first time in years, felt all money in world wasn't worth anything before that note. And you, what would you do in this child's place? Have you ever gone through something that left you voiceless? Tell here in comments. I really want to read your opinion. Sound of bucket falling resonated like thunder inside mansion. Taylor was on knees, thin arms trying to hold soaked rag while Vivian and Margaret watched from above with hard, relentless faces. Faster. Vivian's voice cut like knife. This girl will never be good for anything, Margaret added, index finger pointing like sentence. Taylor cried silently, as always did. But this time crying wasn't muffled only by walls, was interrupted by another sound. Main door opening, firm steps on marble and heavy breathing of man coming determined. Jeremy entered and time stopped. Scene before him was some of all signals had tried to ignore. Daughter kneeling, dirt stuck to skin, empty gaze of someone no longer expecting help. Silence lasted second, but explosion came like thunder. Enough! Voice resonated on walls, louder than any order ever given in that house. Vivian startled but tried to react. Ran toward him with false tears sprouting from eyes. Jeremy, it's not what it seems. Was just trying to educate. But Jeremy was no longer same man as before. Cold executive who weighed decisions on spreadsheets and contracts had disappeared. Father had taken his place. With strides lifted daughter from floor, Taylor clung to neck, sobbing, small body trembling. Jeremy's eyes burned when turned toward Vivian. You and your mother, get out of my house. Right now! Margaret tried to laugh with disdain. Can't talk like that. You need us. This company. This perfect image you've built. Everything can collapse. Jeremy took step forward, body erect like steel wall. There's no image, no fortune. If my daughter suffers inside my home, everything has already collapsed. Vivian fell to knees, grabbing arm. Did it for you, Jeremy. Don't understand. She had to learn to respect. He pushed her with force of years of contained rage. What she needed was mother, and you turned her into slave. Taylor hid face against father's chest, but eyes open for instant, gleaming with first spark of hope in long time. Silence that followed was suffocating. Even employees who appeared at hallway doors stopped incredulous. For first time, saw boss abandon role of businessman and fully assume role of father. Jeremy pointed to door with low but lethal tone. Pack bags. Don't want to hear either of your voices in this place again. Vivian's eyes widened, but look of defeat was already there. Margaret muttered something but backed away. In matter of minutes, suitcases were dragged. Heels resonated through hallways and mansion door closed behind them. Jeremy remained motionless in center of room, chest gasping. Taylor still clung to neck, bear trapped between them, wet with her tears. Before and after drew in invisible lines. In that instant, Jeremy knew could never again be man who ignored signals. Never again could bury head in work and call that love. Looked at daughter and whispered with broken voice but firm, never again will they hurt you. Silence that followed wasn't fear, was liberation. If this moment moved you as much as me, leave your like now. Shows you also felt every second of this twist. Mansion door still vibrated from impact of last slam. Sound of Vivian and Margaret's heels disappeared into night, swallowed by cold wind crossing garden. Inside house, dense silence took over. So deep even clock's tick-tock seemed to hesitate before continuing. Jeremy remained motionless few seconds in middle of room, muscles tense and gaze fixed on nothing. Entire body pulsed as if had just left physical battle, but wasn't blows that had wounded him, was repeated image of daughter kneeling, note hidden in bare, muffled sobs he'd ignored. Taylor remained in arms. Small face was buried in tie, tears moistening fabric. Bare, squeezed between them, seemed to share same trembling breath. Jeremy held her like someone carrying broken glass, with enough strength to protect it, but afraid any wrong movement would make it crumble. Climbed stairs in silence, each step weighed on chest. In child's room, deposited her on bed, but she didn't release neck. Small fingers clung even more desperately. Dad, don't let them come back, whispered with weak voice but full of panic. He swallowed and caressed disheveled hair. Never again. Now you're safe. Remained sitting beside her even after she closed eyes from exhaustion. Observed light breathing, but irregular, as if body still expected next attack. Bear rested beside, poorly done stitching open, exposing wrinkled paper. Jeremy picked it up, passed finger over childish phrase and almost couldn't breathe. Dad, I'm scared of Mom. Trembling letters were like stab. closed eyes remembering each time Taylor tried to speak without words. Evasive look, hidden hands, sobs behind door. And he didn't want to listen. Clock struck midnight. Jeremy went down to kitchen. White lights reflected on impeccable tiles, and everything seemed too organized, too clean, almost cruel. Opened one of drawers and found pile of gleaming cutlery. Pulled chair, sat and let head fall between hands. Didn't cry aloud, only let heavy breathing betray error pursuing him. Hadn't protected only person who mattered most. Soft noise pulled him from trance. Small footsteps on stairs. Taylor stood with bare pressed against chest and long shirt dragging on floor. "Can't sleep alone," said in low voice. Jeremy ran to her and knelt to level with eyes. "Then you'll never sleep alone again." Lifted her in arms again. "While I'm here, you'll never be afraid again." Returned with her to bedroom, but this time didn't leave. Lay beside, still dressed, allowing her to rest head on shoulder. Taylor held Bear with one hand and his shirt with other, as if feared he'd disappear in darkness. Jeremy remained motionless, listening to each breath, each small sigh. Felt own heart, for first time in years, beating in rhythm with hers. Outside, rain began to fall, thin, sliding down glass like sky's own crying lines. Mansion, before so full of strange voices, now was empty. But emptiness also brought strange sensation of new beginning. Jeremy didn't know what next days would be like, what would say to press, how would deal with company, or what would be Vivian's next attacks. But knew one thing, daughter was in arms, and that was only thing truly mattering. Looked at Bear with note still hidden inside and made decision in silence. Would keep that paper forever, not as painful memory but as reminder never again could close eyes to what had before him. In room's dimness, Taylor finally truly slept, body relaxed against father. Jeremy, exhausted, also closed eyes but didn't sleep. Remained there vigilant, as if were first time truly assuming protector's role. If this part has truly moved you, you can support our channel with super thanks or subscribe now. That helps us keep bringing stories as intense as this. Morning entered timidly through mansion's tall windows. Glass still retained marks from previous night's rain, but air inside house was different. There were no longer harsh voices resonating through hallways, no impatient heels hitting marble. Silence remaining wasn't oppressive, was empty space but breathable. Jeremy was sitting on bed's edge, observing daughter still sleeping. Taylor hugged Bear with such force, seemed to sew into it everything remaining of childhood. For first time in long while, face wasn't tense. There was no shadow of fear in closed eyes. Only rest. He caressed child's disheveled hair and certainty invaded him. None of that could be undone. What Taylor had lived was already marked. But from then on, he'd have to be different. Not distant executive, not man fleeing to work, but father who looks, who listens, who protects. When stood up, feet touched soft carpet, and realized how everything in that house had always been made to show off. Expensive carpets, imposing furniture, chandeliers illuminating without warming. But now understood, all that was just scenery. True home wasn't in wealth, but in fragile and strong bond, at same time, needing to rebuild with daughter. In following days, Jeremy didn't immediately return to office. Canceled meetings, postponed projects. Spent mornings beside Taylor, preparing simple breakfast she really liked, toast and chocolate milk. In afternoon, walked with her through garden where still were flowers resisting wind. And at night, read stories in low voice until she fell asleep. Those gestures didn't erase scars, but each small detail was new brick on path of trust beginning to build. Taylor took time to release knot in chest, but gradually child smiled again. Wasn't open, naive smile like before pain, was cautious smile but real. Jeremy only carried guilt like weight, perhaps never disappearing. Remembered nights when heard muffled crying and didn't open door. Remembered note hidden in toy found too late, but understood regret only made sense if pushed him forward. And perhaps that's what fall teaches. Don't become who you were. Learn to walk with new marks, with more attentive gaze, more human. To you watching this, if you've reached here, it's because something in this story reached you. Perhaps because you also felt invisible sometime. Perhaps because know someone carrying heavy silence inside house. Or who knows? Because realized being father, mother, friend, or child is more than providing, is being present. Sometimes all someone needs is place where can simply breathe without fear. Not all new beginnings are loud. Some start like this, with simple breakfast plate, with story read at night, with hug finally not letting go. And I want to tell you something important. If at some moment in life you felt there was nobody seeing your pain, must know you're not alone. Stories like this remind us all, even scars can bloom into something new when true care exists. Days turned into weeks. House that once seemed mausoleum full of shadows slowly transformed. Windows that before only let in cold light now opened to morning breeze. Rooms echoing with heavy silence began filling with small conversations, hesitant laughs, sounds of normalcy. Taylor continued therapy. Sessions that before were obligation became space of genuine progress. Child psychologist Dr. Morrison visited House twice a week. Brought toys, patience, and warm smile, reminding Taylor not all adults were threats. Together worked through trauma. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just healing for sake of healing. Jeremy changed too. Man, who before hid behind contracts and business trips, now organized schedule around daughter. Mornings began with breakfast together. He learned to prepare pancakes way Taylor liked, with maple syrup and strawberries. Learned to listen to silences, understand gestures, read emotions in daughter's eyes. Learned that being father meant being present in small moments. Tying shoelaces, braiding hair, sitting on floor to play with dolls. One afternoon, while Taylor drew on living room floor, Jeremy sat on carpet beside her. Wasn't distant observation of busy father checking task completion. Was present, attentive presence of father discovering daughter crayon by crayon. When she finished small drawing, house with son and two figures holding hands, he felt lump in throat. "Is beautiful," he said, voice full of emotion. Taylor turned toward him, eyes gleaming. "It's us, Dad. You and me." Jeremy picked up drawing as if were most precious treasure. Tears came, but weren't tears of pain. Were tears of something being healed, slowly but surely. They spoke about mother that evening. For first time since death, Jeremy didn't avoid subject. Shared memories. How Emma laughed. How filled house with music. How loved Taylor with every fiber of being. "She would want you to be happy," Jeremy said, holding daughter's hands. "Would want us both to be happy." Taylor nodded, squeezing father's hands. "I'm trying, Dad." "I know, sweetheart. And I'm here. This time I'm really here." Legal process regarding Vivian was lengthy. Police investigation revealed extent of abuse. Medical records showing unexplained injuries. Testimony from former household staff about what witnessed. Psychological evaluation confirming emotional trauma. Vivian was charged with child abuse and emotional cruelty. Jeremy hired best lawyer could find, not for revenge but to ensure daughter's safety. Restraining order was issued. Vivian was forbidden from approaching Taylor or Jeremy. Trial date was set, but for Taylor, legal justice was secondary. What mattered was daily healing. Mornings without fear, nights without nightmares, moments of genuine peace. House underwent changes too. Jeremy removed heavy curtains, keeping rooms dark. Hired interior designer to make spaces brighter, more welcoming. Taylor's room was repainted in soft pink she chose herself. New bed, new furniture, new beginning. Bear remained, though, carefully mended, sitting on pillow like guardian of memories, both painful and precious. One evening, several months after that terrible night, they had visitor. Mrs. Henderson, Taylor's former kindergarten teacher, came for tea. Had heard through grapevine what happened and wanted to check on child. They shared meal, stories, gentle laughter. House that once knew only tension now hosted warmth. After tea, Mrs. Henderson asked Taylor to show drawings. Taylor looked at father, seeking permission, reassurance. He nodded encouragingly. She ran to room and returned with stack of papers. Colorful drawings of flowers, rainbows, and always, two figures holding hands. Mrs. Henderson had tears in eyes. "She's healing," whispered to Jeremy. "Can see it in art. Fear is fading." Jeremy's chest swelled with emotion. And Taylor, for first time in so long, felt something she'd almost forgotten. Felt worthy. Felt loved. Felt whole. As guests left and evening settled, Jeremy helped Taylor prepare for bed. Routine they'd developed over months. Comfortable, filled with small moments of connection. "Dad?" Taylor said as he tucked blanket around her. "Yes, sweetheart? Thank you for saving me." Jeremy felt throat tighten. Knelt beside bed, took her hand. "You saved yourself, Taylor. You were brave enough to hold on, to show me that note. I was just too blind to see until almost too late. But you saw eventually. That's what matters." He kissed her forehead. "Love you so much. We'll spend rest of life making up for time I wasn't there. You're here now. That's enough." After she fell asleep, Jeremy stood in doorway watching her peaceful breathing, thought about how close had come to losing her completely, how Vivian's cruelty could have destroyed this precious child, but also thought about resilience, Taylor's incredible strength, capacity to survive, to hope, to heal. If you've reached here, means this story touched some point of your soul, and I want to thank you for it. Thank you for being with me, for feeling each silence, each tear, each breath of this narration. If this story moved you, you can support our channel with super thanks. This gesture, however small may seem, helps us keep bringing real stories like this, with truth, with pain, and with light. And if you're not yet subscribed, this is moment. Your presence here matters. Stories like this aren't easy to tell, but are necessary. Because deep down, stories like this aren't just about invented characters. They speak about us, about me, about you. About times we felt trapped in silences, invisible within own home, suffocated by someone who should care for us. About how even in darkest nights, there can always be gesture, presence, moment that changes everything. And I want to tell you something directly. You're not alone. If this story reached your heart, if at some moment saw yourself reflected in Taylor or Jeremy, remember there are people who believe in you, even when world tries to silence your pain. Thank you from heart for watching until end. And if want to continue this journey with us, there's another video waiting for you right here beside. Perhaps it will also find you wherever you are.